Welcome to the Be Free and Rise show, where we break free from bipolar depression and rise up as self-healers. I am your host, Tiffany Jean Taylor. I have self-healed from bipolar depression. Now I am coaching you to create a lifestyle of mental wellness so that you can live a life of mental freedom. Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Be Free and Rise show. This episode is a continuation of episode 1, so if you have not caught that episode yet, head on back and grab that first. In the previous episode, I started sharing how my self-healing of bipolar depression started, and we ended the episode with me sharing with you how I ended up back into the mental health hospital twice within a current year. But something happened differently this time around. There was a major pivoting point that happened during this hospital stay. Granted, you guys, I was admitted back into the same exact hospital with the same exact psychiatrist, with the same therapist, with the same counselors. I was given the same mental health protocols, which was the talk therapy, the antidepressants, the antipsychotics. It was all the same. And that's where my pivoting point came from, is I just looked at all of that and I just realized if nothing changes, nothing changes. This is an exact duplication of where I just was. I'm back in the same exact situation with the same exact results, the same exact protocols, and I'm expecting to get better. I'm expecting my symptoms to dissipate. And it was in that moment that I realized the psychiatrists, they can't help me. The medication can't help me. The counselors can't help me. Like, if I really, truly want to survive bipolar depression, I have to save myself. Because I'm at this point, like I'm in the mental health hospital because again, I'm having another suicide attempt. Again, in the same calendar year, I'm facing the same challenges. And it just dawned on me, like I'm doing all of the things and it's not working. So I have to change something. And it was in that moment that I really started to step into self-healing. Granted, I didn't know it at the time. I wasn't aware. I didn't have that verbiage at the time, but that's when the self-healing, started for me. And I left the hospital with this awareness that I have to do something. I have to take direct action. I have to save myself. I have to become my own hero. So I left the hospital and I went home and I started a Google search of holistic mental health. Granted, you guys, this was 10 years ago. This was in 2014. So I didn't have TikTok. I didn't have Facebook. I didn't have Instagram. I didn't have the DIY of YouTube back then. So all I had was Google. But Google came in clutch for me, you guys. Google came in clutch. It did the thing for me. And I came across this caveman's approach to depression. And the theory of this approach was, what would a caveman do if they were suffering from depression? How would they cure their depression? Because if it's a caveman, they don't have a pharmacy, they don't have a doctor, they don't have like antidepressants. What would they do? And I took this approach and I ran with it because at this point, what do I have to lose? What do I have to lose? I'm already like on the verge of losing my life to bipolar depression. So I was very like willing to try anything. I was willing to try anything and do anything to help me. And I took this caveman's approach and I kind of put my own spin on it. And as a matter of fact, I still teach this today. It's part of my coaching practice. So, what this was is talking about how a caveman would use natural resources and remedies that we have, like right at our fingertips, in order to apply and boost our mental health. It was getting out in sunlight, it was getting exercise, being with nature, having healthy socialization with other humans, eating healthy, drinking your water. Because remember, guys, when we're struggling from depression, we've stepped away from all of these things that actually are very simple, but in fact make us feel good. And so, in this approach, I incorporated one new habit every single day. And for me, the first habit that I incorporated was getting out of my bed. Because remember, I was bedridden with this depressive episode. And so I decided step number one, Tiffany, needs to be to get out of this bed. And so I just moved from my bed to the couch. Granted, I know, like I'm still just laying there, completely helpless and defeated, but I'm in a new environment and that was change for me. Like that was actually a big step for me to simply move to the couch. So I did that. I forced myself to move to a different place and lay in a different place. And that created some willpower and some strength for me. So I did that for a week and then I decided, okay, I'm going to add in a new habit which was getting the sunlight. So I started sitting outside on my patio for like 15 minutes a day, absorbing the natural sunlight, which is natural vitamin D for our body. And it is also going to boost our dopamine and our serotonin. So, week two, I'm getting out of bed. And I added in a second habit, which is going outside and getting the sunlight. That continued to build strength for me. So then in week three, I incorporated a new habit, which was all right, it's time to start moving my body. I feel stronger today. And I started walking around the block. This, I wasn't strong enough to go run a marathon or to go to the gym or do a hit workout. I wasn't strong enough for that yet, but I was strong enough to walk around the block and get my body moving. So in week three, I'm doing three habits by now. I'm getting out of bed, I'm getting sunlight, and I'm walking around the block. Week four, I added in a new habit. Week five, I added in a new habit. You guys, and what this did was it slowly built up my strength and it slowly built up my willpower. And this is what I like to say crawling out of depression. I literally crawled step by step out of that major depressive episode that I was in. And like I told you, this is something that I still incorporate in my life today. 10 years later, 100% symptom free. I don't even identify with bipolar depression anymore, but I am still incorporating this mental wellness lifestyle in my life today. Granted, the habits that I'm doing every day, they're bigger wellness habits. They require more strength and more discipline and more willpower, but it is how I am consistently maintaining my life of mental wellness and remaining symptom free. And these are the practices that I incorporate inside of my group coaching membership. It's called the Overcomers Circle because we are all overcomers of mental illness, right? And inside of here, we use this structure and this foundation to help us crawl away from our mental health challenges. And we come together and we empower each other with strength and support to embark in this mental wellness lifestyle. If this is something that you could see yourself receiving support in, if this is an area that you need to create strength in, I encourage you to come inside of the Overcomer Circle. Come receive this structure, this foundation, and this guidance and this empowerment from us inside of this community. You can get to this community by going to tiffanyjeantaylor.com/links, and you're going to look for the tab that says Overcomers Circle. I wish I could say that crawling out of this depressive episode was the end of my suffering forever and I lived happily ever after. But that's not how it went for me. It was only the beginning of my holistic mental health journey. From here at this moment, I still continued my medication. I still continued working with the psychiatrist, but I also incorporated holistic modalities and holistic ideas. Okay. So this is kind of when my mind began to open up to other concepts and other ideas and I became experimental and I continued to research different protocols that I'd never known about before. I had an open mind and I had a willingness to try anything because the suffering was so bad. I just didn't want to live that life anymore. Still swinging in and out of the manic episodes and the depressive episodes, because here's what I learned about bipolar depression is that when you finally crawl your way out of that depressive episode, chances can be that you're going to swing into the manic episode. And when you finally break free from the manic episode, chances are you're going to swing into the depressive episode. It's usually like one to the next, one to the next. But what was happening during my self-healing journey as I started to incorporate all of these holistic protocols and therapies is that my swings from those extremes, they got smaller and smaller and they got less severe. So they continued to happen, for many years, but the holistic modalities helped me to lessen them. So it lessened the turmoil, it lessened the suffering. 2018 was when I officially quit working with traditional psychiatry and Western medicine. I kind of came to a realization of how the medication that I was taking was causing an overwhelming amount of side effects that was not helping my healing journey at all. And it happened by me going in for a routine check in with my psychiatrist and realizing that I was actually over the legal limit on my Zoloft. Because here's how this happened was my psychiatrist was always just upping my medication, upping the dosage if it wasn't working, or implementing a new prescription. It was always oh, that pill's not working, then try this pill. Oh, that antipsychotic's not working. Oh, try this one. Oh, it's still not working. Let's try this different cocktail of these together. And so I was taught that working with my psychiatrist that if it wasn't working, to just take another pill. That's what my psychiatrist taught me. So at home, in between my appointments with my psychiatrist, I'm not putting complete blame on him, but at home I learned, well, I'm still really depressed. I'm just going to take even more antidepressants because if I take more antidepressants, the depression's going to go away. So, secretly behind the scenes, I'm taking more antidepressants than what I should be because I am highly medicated, yet severely depressed still. And I go into that appointment and he's like, whoa, 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 we can't do this. That's too much. You've got to stop. And so, when I walked away from that appointment, I realized this isn't working. This is not working. The medication isn't working, and if nothing changes, nothing changes. Again, another like self-aware moment for me. So it was in that moment that I decided to do something that I don't recommend you to do. Like I advise against this. I'm just sharing my personal testimony and how I handled this. I intuitively weaned myself off of my antipsychotics and antidepressants without my psychiatrist input. I just cold turkey stopped going to meet up with my psychiatrist. I never told him what I was doing. I just never went to my appointments ever again. And I, by myself, weaned myself off of my medications. By the grace of God, I did not have any, adverse effects of quitting my medications. Thank God, because you can have really bad results by not taking your medications anymore. Like you can go into psychosis and different things like that. Luckily, I didn't experience that, but just cautioning you in that to make sure that you know what you're doing because bad things can happen. And the reason why I went to this place was because I remember at this time, I just felt like a walking zombie. I was taking all of this medication to numb out, the side effects, because that's what medication does. Medication is not going to heal you. Medication is going to treat the symptom, not the cause. If you're on a holistic mental health journey, you might be searching for herbal remedies to ease your emotional discomforts. One of my favorite remedies is this herbal tincture from Roots Apothecary called ashwagandha. It's for calming the stress response of our nervous system. Ashwagandha is an adaptogenic herb that reduces cortisol production and helps you to stay calm and collected while facing adversity. It provides you with all natural mood and energy support, boost your natural and physical stamina while balancing out your adrenals to prevent fatigue. You can get 15% off of this ashwagandha tincture by shopping my affiliate link located inside of my herbal remedy resource tab at tiffanyjeantaylor.com/links. So my symptoms were numb. I was completely numb. I had zero empathy. I could feel nothing. I could not feel joy. I could not feel happiness. I could not feel anger. I could not feel rage. I could not feel anxiety, which some of that was good. But when you live like that for years, I got to this point where feeling something was better than feeling nothing at all. And so that's what pushed me to that point of not wanting to take my medication anymore. And I quit. I got off the medication, and moving forward, this kind of pushed me into a different, like another realm of my self-healing journey, because that's what it is self-healing is a journey. It's a new chapter after a new chapter after a new chapter. And so in this chapter of me no longer being medicated meant that now I'm fully exposed to all of my feelings. So I'm still struggling with manic episodes. I'm still struggling with depressive episodes. And I'm kind of essentially feeling it even more at this point, which is a good thing, because you have to feel it in order to heal it. So this exposed me to all of the things that I needed to feel in order to heal. But the problem with this chapter was that even though I wasn't numbing out with the antidepressants and the antipsychotics, I'm still numbing out from alcohol. I'm still struggling with alcoholism. I'm at this point now, I actually incorporated a new remedy because by now it's 2018 and 2019 in this part of my story. And medical marijuana is a big deal now. And I figured out that I could go and get a medical prescription for medical marijuana, and now I'm numbing out with medical marijuana and I'm using it legally, which, there's always things to serve their purposes and how they serve their purposes. And I used to say that weed would save other people from the wrath of me, because weed really calmed down my mania. It really calmed down my mania to an extreme. But I realized in that journey that that was a weakness, right? Because there comes a time in your self healing journey where you want to have complete control over your actions and reactions. You want to be able to have complete self control over your emotions. And if I'm controlling my emotions, and I'm controlling my mania with weed, it's a blessing to the people around me, but it's kind of a weakness to me. And so I stepped into this place. I think it was back in 2021 that I got completely sober. Once again, this was another grace from God, because Lord knows that I was too weak to do this on my own. So God kind of ignited my willpower to another level. In 2021, I broke free from alcohol and weed. I've been completely sober ever since then. And once again, this was like a new chapter for me, because I was able to experience my feelings and emotions in a new way, because now I'm raw dogging every emotion I ever feel. There's no longer medication, weed, or alcohol to numb out anything. And I'm not here to say that it was easy. This was a very challenging experience for me to raw dog all of my emotions, because I started drinking alcohol when I was 13. So by 2021, I had been doing that for decades. So for me to step into this place of feeling everything naturally, it was a whole nother experience for me. And coincidentally, my life transformed into a different place during this chapter. I stepped into this complete isolation for my self healing. It was almost as if I went into this healing cocoon. I dropped the alcohol, I dropped the weed, I got sober, I broke off all of my relationships, I stopped going into all of these old environments that was contributing to my mental illness, and I just went into this deep self-healing isolation. I teach that isolation and solitude can have its benefits, but it can also be toxic, and I really think that during a deep depressive episode, isolation's not going to be healthy for you. But for me, in this self healing journey that I was on in this place and in this chapter, isolation most definitely benefited me. Isolation most definitely helped me a lot because it allowed me to have this place where I just stepped and I went within. I stepped into this isolation and connected with myself in a way that I never had in my entire life. I started to learn things about myself that I never knew. I started to learn about the ill programming that I was under. I started to learn about the toxic perspectives that I had that was contributing to my mental illness. I started to learn about the rewiring of my brain and my nervous system that I needed to do. During this time, I embraced self healing and holistic modalities. It was my life. It was all I did during this chapter. And I was very blessed to be able to go into this self healing cocoon and isolation to the extreme that I did. I was very blessed to have that experience because beautifully, I only had to be there for, it felt like a short period of time. And in 2022 was when I kind of started to come out of that cocoon, if you will. I had shed my old self. I had shed all of my old reactions and actions. I had shed the depressive episodes. I had shed the manic episodes. I broke free from all of that. But coming out of that place is that part of your self healing journey is also combating your fight, flight, or freeze tendencies. And so, because I had lived in these depressive and manic episodes for so long, my body was stuck in a freeze trauma response. And that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. And we'll get into that in other episodes. But this was, the entire year of 2022 for me was breaking free from that freeze trauma response that I was stuck in because my body was exhausted. My body was recovering from the mania and from the depression. In 2023, I entered back into the world, I guess you could say. This was the year that I stepped out of that isolation, I stepped out of that solitude, and I kind of started taking the new me and putting it into the world. It was the new me adjusting to the world because I feel like that is a whole part of the journey in itself because you go within, you break free from all of the old you and the mental illness, but then integrating everything that you just did in your healing journey and you just learned, integrating it into the world, that's a chapter in its own because you have to learn how to be your healed self in a world that is not healed. And you have to learn how to trust the world that you can see as completely toxic with all of its unhealthy mechanisms and coping skills and ways and programming and perspectives. And you have to learn how to remain healed while living in that world. Now, here I am, it's 2024, and I am reborn with my new identity. I've integrated everything that I learned in the last 10 years. I'm sharing it with the world. I'm turning all of that pain into power. I'm sharing all of the experiences and the skill sets and the character traits that I learned along the way. I'm now here to empower the world and share all of this with the world because I know that if I'm capable of doing what I've just did in the last 10 years in self-healing, that you're capable of doing it. And my biggest prayer is that, it took me 10 years to do this, but I pray that it's not going to take you 10 years because remember, I didn't have social media. I didn't have a podcast. I didn't have a mental wellness coach. I didn't have a mentor. I did it all by myself with Google and some of the resources that I collected along the way, which over the last 10 years, I did a lot of things. I tried so much. And if I can encourage you to just have an open mind and be willing to experiment with new modalities and new therapies that you've never experienced before. I had an open mind and I started with the talk therapy. I started with the antidepressants. I started with the antipsychotics. But then I evolved into new ideas and new concepts. So I tried the Reiki energy work. I tried the healing retreats in Sedona. I worked with energy workers. I did ayahuasca. I tried hape. I tried gut healing. I tried nervous system healing. And it all helped me along the way. I feel like everything that I tried along the way in all of these different ways, I picked up a new understanding and a new awareness and a new concept of myself. But at the end of the day, after all of the retreats, after all of the certificates, after all of the workshops I did, after all of that, the one biggest takeaway that I had is that it was always me. I was always the healer. I was my cure. I was my antidote. I was the solution to my bipolar depression. And all of these things that I experimented with along the way, they just opened up a new perspective that was always within me. I had to do the work though. I had to be a self-healer. I had to be willing to do the deep dive to expose all of the things that lied behind the manic episodes and lied behind the depressive episodes. That was deep work. It was very deep work that only I could do. So even today, as your mental wellness coach and your mental wellness mentor, I can expose and share with you all of the ideas and the tips and the tricks and the how-to action steps, and I can give you the support, I can give you the empowerment, I can give you the structure. But I cannot do what's most important, which is the inner work. That is something that only you can do. Only you can do that. Moving forward in this podcast, I'm going to continue to share with you more and more chapters of my self-healing journey. I'm going to continue to share more how-to action steps that you can incorporate because I want you to rise up as a self-healer and find freedom just like I have found it. So I'm going to continue to share all of this. I always like to say that I crawled my way out of bipolar depression because that's literally how you do it. It is one step at a time, and you crawl your way away from mental illness. And as you start to walk away and crawl away, you are slowly empowered more and more and more, inch by inch, chapter by chapter. You are going to crawl away from the identity of bipolar depression, and you're going to move into that identity of the healed version of yourself. So keep coming back week after week for a new episode as I continue to share with you how to become a self-healer. Bye, guys. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Be Free and Rise show. If you have enjoyed this episode and you are getting value from listening, it would mean the world to me if you gave back by writing me a review or sharing my podcast with someone who you know would benefit from it. Don't forget, if you're feeling alone and isolated on your journey, you have the opportunity to join my self-healing membership. The Overcomer Circle is a community of like minds who are committed to doing the inner work to holistically heal from mental illness and rise up as self-healers. It's a space for you to feel empowered with faith that healing is possible, while also being supported by a village of humans who understand what you're going through. This community is led by yours truly, so you will get exclusive access to my mentorship and coaching. You can join the Overcomer Circle by clicking the link in the show notes or going to tiffanyjeantaylor.com/links.